Here we go. It's almost time for the show, but I want to take a few seconds here to talk about vigilantes. If you are not, right there, man, if you are not a vigilante, why not? It's $5 a month. It is less than the cost of a cup of coffee, and there is so many benefits. The biggest benefit being you get to connect to like-minded individuals who think the same way that you think. And it's a powerful, powerful place to be. The Discord is where all of the interaction is going on. There is so much going on in there, it's hard to explain. And the only way to be a part of it is to get on the Patreon so that you can get access to the Discord channel. It is a good time. Go become a part. There's new stuff we're working on. Last week, we had a vigilante meetup in Louisiana at the Lift conference. It was a phenomenal time. And the vigilantes and I got to sit there and discuss, hey, how can we make these even better? How can we make these even better? And we did. We decided a way to give the Viceroy solid rules and ways to host the meeting, how to have the open with the toast and close with the creed, and what to do with the coins and the numbered coins and the challenges involved. It was a good time, man, to make it even better. They're doing stuff like working on building the V drive, putting together all this knowledge and files that they're building together. Currently, their project they're collecting blueprints and plans to work for the work of search, which is the supplement, the drill supplement for the book of search. It's going to be coming out soon. They're working on putting that together. It's just phenomenal what they got going on. Not to mention, you get swag discounts, access to the vigilante only shop, access to the after parties, and of course the vigilante meetups. It's amazing. If you're not a part, why not? I have to ask you that. If you're still only on the Facebook, man, get with the times, get on the Patreon so you can be in the Discord. Do it. Quit faffing about. Patreon.com/thevigilantes. Go join so you can get in the Discord. Right now, we're currently doing a V50. There's like 35 of us doing a V50 together. We're on day 2 today, and we got 48 days to go, but already it's challenging me, and the accountability is amazing. So if you want to find like-minded souls, patreon.com/thevigilantes. I'll see you on the Discord.
Introducing the Affordable Bailout Prop, another innovative training solution by Affordable Drill Towers. The Affordable Bailout Prop is a durable and affordable training tool that allows firefighters to enhance their skills with real-world training in your parking lot or on your apparatus floor. Most fire departments only require annual PSS qualification, which isn't enough to develop muscle memory. When seconds count, you must be able to deploy your PSS and quickly escape by seating your hook in the sill or using a remote anchor point. With an overall height under 12 feet, a 5x7 footprint, and 12-inch heavy-duty swivel casters with double locks, the Affordable Bailout Prop can be easily moved between your parking lot and apparatus floor. Constructed of pressure-treated 4x4s, the window frame dimensions mimic the Denver drill window prop with a sill height of almost 8 feet, featuring a pressure-treated 2x12 sill. The rappel wall is made of 8 2x10s screwed into batten boards. All parts, including the windowsill and rappel wall, are designed to be easily replaceable if they become worn. A vertical ladder provides access to the deck, which is approximately 4 foot above ground level. In addition to window and ladder bailout drills, you can also train on removing victims through the window, whether handing the victim to another firefighter on the ladder or using the ladder as a high point. Don't stop with rescue drills. Consider advancing a hose line through the window and learn methods to overcome the challenges. Or hone the mechanics of VES, Vent Enter Search. The uses are endless and up to your imagination, creating an enormous value. With its inspiration coming from the events of FDNY's Black Sunday, Affordable Drill Towers donates 10% of all proceeds from the Affordable Bailout Prop to the Lieutenant Joseph P. DiBernardo Memorial Foundation. The Affordable Bailout Prop is available as a kit that you assemble, or fully assembled, where we train you how to assemble in the future. Elevate your training regimen with the Affordable Bailout Prop, setting a new standard in fire department training excellence. Reach us at 84455 Towers or info@affordabledrilltowers.com.
Corlymore, Firehouse Vigilance. It is weekly scrap number 297. My guest tonight is Anthony Avillo, with 40 years in the fire service, retired as Deputy Chief of North Hudson Regional Fire and Rescue out of New Jersey after 30 years of service. He is an urban fireground commander. Avillo commanded fire and emergency operations in the most congested cities in the United States. He is the author of Fireground Strategies and the co-author of Full Contact Leadership. He is the Region 3 Director of the ISFSI and also Director of the Monmouth County Fire Academy in New Jersey. He's a member of the Fire Engineering Editorial Advisory Board and was the recipient of the George D. Post Instructor of the Year Award in 2012. He has a BS. He has an MS. So it's not just a pretty face. He also has all the paperwork to prove it. Anthony also speaks around the United States and Canada. He's highly sought after on the subject he teaches. And man, 100 episodes on the nose. Welcome back to the scrap once more for episode 297. My friend, my brother, Anthony Avillo.
Thank you, my brother. I really appreciate that, man. Yeah, 100 episodes on the dot, man. That's pretty cool.
It was like, hey, it was meant to be. Actually, is there anything I missed in the intro? Anything you'd like to add to the bio? Anything I left out?
No, I got to subtract a little. I'm not the ISFSI Region 3 Director anymore.
Okay.
Well, the first time that I did it, Brian Zeitz said to me, he said, listen, don't worry about it. We'll get you in there. We'll put you so this time I didn't think I had to do anything to, get reelected, and I never put in for it. I got kicked out.
Strictly on paperwork.
Yeah. They were like, listen, we'll find some place for you. And I'm not the director of Monmouth County Fire Academy anymore. So I'm retired twice. Yeah, I'm retired twice.
I love it. And audience, get ready. If you have questions for Anthony and myself, we love your questions. Get them in. Already people are psyched up about they're already crowding the front row on the YouTube. Candace Ashby logged in and said, hi, Anthony. So there you go. Chief Ashby.
Girl.
Already. Yes. All right. Let's talk about those beautiful sponsors. Let's talk about the sponsors that make the scrap happen. When it comes to performance under pressure, you need equipment that won't let you down. That's where American-made Snap-Tight comes in. Built tough for firefighters, Snap-Tight hose is engineered to perform under pressure. Plus, Snap-Tight hoses are easy to deploy and even easier to rely on, with unmatched heat resistance to abrasion and extreme temperatures. Here's the best part. They offer guaranteed shipping and 4-week lead times. Snap-Tight hose, man, be ready, durable, on your side. Affordable Drill Towers, on a mission to bring you cost-effective and versatile training props like the Affordable Bailout Prop, which allows you to practice window bailouts, ladder bailouts, and ladder high-point rescues. They also make the Affordable Standpipe Prop, which you can roll into the classroom for standpipe theory and then roll it into the parking lot and pump realistic flows and pressures. Their mainstay, the Affordable Drill Tower, comes in several configurations and standard with a standpipe system. You can choose from 1 or 2 sets of stairs integrated into your existing Connex boxes for multi-story access or freestanding on a slab. All models are NFPA 1402 compliant and gain you ISO credit. The only thing that you can't do on an Affordable Drill Tower is live fire training. Call Steve, 844-55-TOWER, or drop an email to info@affordabledrilltowers.com. Finally, firefighter safety and accountability starts with being able to quickly find and identify individual firefighters operating on the fireground. Identifier Safety combines the best in photoluminescent materials for durable firefighter identification solutions that can glow for up to 20 hours, no switches, no batteries, which means being able to rapidly identify firefighters by name, unit, or assignment, even under hot fire conditions. All specifically designed and tested for the rigors of the job. Be seen, on scene. IdentifierSafety.com. And of course, I'd be remiss without mentioning Flame Decon. I love their soaps. I use their soaps, and they are the fourth. So there we go. Sponsors done. We're ready to deep dive into some Fireground strategies. My brother, 4th edition.
Yeah.
That's an accomplishment, my man. That means that it is, 4. Talk to me about the whole process.
Well, it started out, I think the first one came out in 2002, if I'm not mistaken. They had wanted somebody to rewrite Mackinac, which was a book called Strategic Concepts. That was a great book written by Ed Mackinac. He was a chief at FDNY. And he had passed away, and they said, you should rewrite this, because I had all these scenarios. And about halfway through, his family, from what I understand, wanted a lot of money for his name, and fire engineering was like, no, this is your book now. It's your book. So, and Vinny Dunn said to me, he goes, why would you write a book and put somebody else's name on it?
It's a good question.
But listen, I was honored to be in the same sort of breath as Ed McAniff, but I'm glad it turned out the way it did. And, second edition, third edition, and, fourth edition just coming out that I wasn't going to write. But it's actually in the acknowledgments in the book. I was coming out of Tulsa, and I got into a van and to go to the airport, and Chief Brunacini was sitting in the front. And I got to sit on a bench seat with him for like an hour and a half, and we were talking about everything, and he asked me about the book, and I said, the third edition should have been called the last edition. He goes, in his voice, why would you want to do something like that? You have a brand, you're still vital, but you knew how he talked, and you couldn't turn him down. So, and it was like listening to God,
Right, Chief Bruno is the reason the fourth edition exists.
Yeah, pretty much. When I went back to New Jersey, I started taking notes for the fourth edition, and thank you, Chief. But this one was for him.
That's awesome. That is an awesome story. But 23 years, it stood the test of time, and started with those scenarios. I mean, that's awesome.
Amazing, man. That's amazing.
I will ask you unfair question. Yeah. Unfair question out the gate, but what's the biggest change in your opinion over the different editions? Like what's impressed you the most in what you've had to update?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
I say it's unfair to just right out the
gate. You know what? Probably building construction and fire dynamics. I think when I got into the third edition, I started writing about what was happening with the UL studies, and interpreting them sort of my way. I called it "Keep the Beast in the Cage," and So that was the one. And then, all the way through, just building construction is just changing and changing and changing. I mean, there's a lot of changes in the new edition, but I think if you look at a thread all the way through, it's building construction and then, the fire behavior and what's come out with that, and, ventilation and educated aggression and, searchable spaces and all those things. It's, being a director of a fire academy, I had to stay on top of that. I mean, these were things I did, and, we'll see what happens now. I don't have a fire academy anymore, so I don't think there'll be a fifth edition. You can write that. Let somebody else write the fifth edition or their own edition. Somebody else should carry the torch now. I'm too old.
They have to find someone with the qualifications. First of all, that's the tough part, is finding someone who's been down the road you've been down. I love that, the fact of the building, construction, and fire behavior, probably the two pillars of safe and effective fireground operations, period. Yeah. I mean, but the fact that you say that's the biggest changes, and
the many other things in that, any of the tactics that have changed or the strategies that have changed, it's all because of building, construction, and fire behavior. That nothing radically would have changed, if we didn't have that, those changes, So
you talk about getting ahead of an escalating fireground. In fact, escalating fireground is a term I see repeated, and better seen protocols for getting ahead of the escalating fireground. Now, I'm not asking you to teach the entire class and book, but just like a teaser taste of what do you mean when you say an escalating fireground and better seen protocols?
Well, I think you need to be ahead of it, especially if you don't have really good staffing. You have to be able to forecast. You have to be able to look at the exponential potential that's involved. Where could this go? How far could this go? Problems are solved by people and stuff. So I think the escalating fireground has to have a very proactive chief with a very good, solid sort of support system that brings him the things that he needs as he calls for them, which, not only, people and stuff, but chief officers as well. I think, one of the things that helped me a lot was if I had an escalating fireground and I didn't have three companies with nothing to do, standing by in tactical reserve, I'm striking another alarm. Mm-hmm. I'm looking for people with nothing to do. That means I'm probably stabilizing this thing, So that was sort of my philosophy. And, listen, I learned that by hard mistakes and things like that, where, and again, you never have enough people when you need them. but at least if they're coming, even where I am, we have the ability to get a lot of people on Fireground pretty quick, but there are times when I'm standing by myself because everybody's in the buildings,
Right.
and the second alarm comes, I got to put them in. The third alarm comes, I got to relieve the first alarm, so I'm looking for people to start piling up at the command post with nothing to do. And I know that that's when we're starting to figure this one out. And now it's a de-escalating Fireground.
Right. Now that's your benchmark that, okay, we're getting ahead of this. We're starting to de-escalate.
Yeah.
No, I love it.
That helped me a real lot. That really, really helped me. That and decentralizing the Fireground sort of, they were two light bulbs that went off in my head through teaching and training and listening to people that I've been taking classes from and reading books. Those two things allowed me to figure out how to handle the Fireground, and all that stuff is in the book, good, bad, and ugly.
The good, the bad, the ugly. Now, when you and depending on your staff, like you said, you live in an area that's pretty dense, and you have the ability to get a lot of people quickly. And if you're out there in a rural setting and people are coming slower, it still is the same type of benchmark for you. Once you get people standing around, then you're starting to get ahead of the incident.
Yeah,
but it may not be three.
Kind of the same, the mentality is definitely kind of the same. You just got to know where they're coming from, call them, get them earlier, automatic aid, front loading your alarms, things like that, depending on target hazards or weird buildings,
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I love it. Intriguing to me, the difference between interior and exterior size up, because I've always been focused on exterior size up as the in command position. And now you're talking about the interior versus the exterior size up. Delve into it a little bit, talk about it a little bit.
Well, I kind of look at it as the incident ages, the exterior size up becomes more accurate. You're going to balance the interior as well. You're going to balance the two of them. However, you think about it, because you were a company officer, you were a firefighter, you go into a building, you see two windows on fire. 10, 15 minutes later in your head, there's still two windows on fire.
Right.
Outside the building, I'm reading smoke. I'm looking at the progression of smoke. I'm reading the building. I'm doing all those things. You are in your area, which I'm going to take into account when I listen to your reports. But, you ever hear people say, well, why is he pulling us out? Give us 5 more minutes. Well, that's because I'm seeing something from the outside that you might not be seeing in your area where you are. And again, we had a 6-alarm fire, and the fire started in an electrical outlet, and we got called to a smoking outlet. And the smoking outlet, as they pulled the outlet, it gushed smoke. They didn't notice smoke coming out of the cock loft, smoke coming out of the ceiling voids, the door frames. It was one of those fires that we were in for an hour. It was a good building, ordinary construction. We were in there for an hour before we, pulled the plug, and
right.
You could see them everywhere. They were open. Like we were doing trench cuts. We had people on the top floor. We're pulling ceilings. But everywhere I could see they were opening, or they were saying they got fire. And I could see lines sort of coming. You know how the water comes through the cock loft when, we got the roof open and they're pulling the ceilings and they're hitting fire. So I'm looking at that. But there's smoke pouring out of all these other places in the building. So I pull everybody out, and my senior captain's walking to me, and he's got the building in his back. He goes, "Didn't you see us hitting that in a cock loft? I think we were getting a handle on this."
We almost had it. We almost had it, Chief.
Yeah. And I said, "Do you see what I'm seeing here?" And he turns around, he looks, and there's smoke from like 5 different spots. There's fire through the roof. He goes, "Oh, good call. Good call.
Good call. Good call. Thanks, Chief."
Yeah. That was another like light bulb moment. Shit. What I'm seeing outside, what they're seeing inside, it's a little more accurate, I think, in the big picture. So,
and they have to align, and you have to align what you're hearing from the inside to the outside, and vice versa, and just have that trust when you make the call. They trust.
Yeah, and when the reports you're getting from inside are not matching what you're seeing from the outside, you got to start to raise the flag of caution. Like if they had said to us, "Hey, we're hitting fire in the cock loft, we're knocking this down," and I'm looking at this and going, I don't think so.
Right.
It's so you got to balance all that, But again, this comes with, being, getting seasoning and getting some experience and,
that comfort level. I don't know if you're ever comfortable, but that comfort level rising with what you're seeing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
First question coming at you from the Pacific Northwest, Dana Larkin asking you, he says, he puts it in quotation mark, educated aggression. How do you communicate when and where educated aggression is allowed to your newer people who only hear the aggression part?
Well, thanks, Dana, for the question. I got that term from my buddy Jim Duffy, my grandbrother. And educated aggression is basically understanding your buildings, understanding the limitations of the buildings, knowing where the fire is, where the people possibly are, and operating that way. Now, the question is, how do you get the young guys who just understand aggression? Well, you know what? I think it starts with the culture of the department. I also think it has a lot to do with the company officer. You know, I am not ever saying don't be aggressive. I'm just saying there are buildings that change the rules of the game, and the educated aggression has to be based on what the buildings are going to do. You know, not necessarily what we want to do, because we have to play in the stadium of the buildings. You know, that's where the game is played. You know, so educated aggression, like for instance, a lightweight constructed building, we got a fire in there. You know, educated aggression would have something to do with, like, you know, knocking it down from a protected spot, like a doorway. You know, knocking the fire down using the reach of the stream. You know, using your thermal imaging camera, understanding, you know, when we can work and when we can't, and what the weak spots are in the operation that we're doing. That's educated aggression. You know, I'm not going to say we don't go in and search the entire building. I'm not going to say we don't. I'm not going to say we don't be aggressive. We just be aggressive with some smarts.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And we're never looking for a fair fight. We want to be unfair in our fight.
Yeah, you know, I get it. There's too many people out there that they just do this, and it's in the building. Make the rescue. And you know, sometimes you have to understand that the rescue might not be able to be made. You know,
and that's with the intelligence, the size up, the
there's a lot that go with that, you know. But yeah, educated aggression has to be a department like cultural mark, and it has to be your company officers. If your company officers are nuts, then their firefighters are going to be nuts. So again, an educated nut, it's okay to have a nut, but you got to know your nuts.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Now you're speaking fireman speak.
Exactly.
Thank you, Dana. Great question. And way to
Dana.
kick us off with the audience questions. Jeremy Humphrey coming at you says, what inspired you early in your career to start teaching and writing books? Was there a specific moment or experience that sparked that passion?
I coached football, and I loved coaching football. When I got on the fire department, and I played a lot of football. When I got on the fire department, the parallels. I actually have an article in Fire Engineering. It's online, called "Groomed on the Gridiron," and it's about firefighting and football. Paul Combs did a cartoon for it. I had a captain who we wrote the Full Contact Leadership book together, Ed Flood. And Ed Flood, I guess, saw things in me that I didn't see in myself. And, you know, he pushed me and pushed me and pushed me. And, you know, he groomed me, you know, he groomed me. And as I groomed, I learned, and he was everyone, all one, you know, each one teach one was his philosophy, you know. And
right.
So it's interesting. The very first article I wrote was with Ed Flood. It was on a thing called the roof pack, because we had, you know, only 2 guys on a ladder. So we used to use a thing called a roof pack. Again, you could still, it's 1999 now. You could still get the article. And we wrote this article about the roof pack. And the roof pack was a pike pole, a set of irons, 2 ropes coiled for service with one of those engine hose high-rise straps around it.
Okay.
We used to carry that to the roof, and we'd start the roof operation with 1 guy. You know, and that was the roof pack. That was the first article I wrote. Then I had the chart house fire. That was the second article I wrote. And around that time, they had, you know, I had talked to somebody from Fire Engineering, and I had all the scenarios. And I've always liked to write, you know, and I'm toying with a novel. But
oh, really?
Well, I'm toying with something about growing up in North Bergen, New Jersey, and all the all the insanity that surrounded that. But some of my friends are saying that some things are better left unwritten.
Unwritten. Well, if it's fiction, if it's a fiction novel loosely based on reality, you can change the names. Would it be?
Yeah.
Would it involve firefighting at all, or would it strictly be just the growing up in?
I don't think firefighting would be involved. It would be
Okay.
pre-firefighting days. There may be some post-firefighting days, but some things went on that people would just never ever believe actually happened.
Right.
But it all revolved around playing football and some very very good friendships that go on to this day. I lived in a very special place. My cousin's husband, he's from Dominique. He says, you know what? You people from North Bergen are like a tribe. He says, I've never seen anything like it. You always find each other. Everybody knows each other. You can't go, it's like you've never lost any time when you see each other. My brother has a band, and the band brings a lot of people together, and
I bet.
So this book would have been about that. But, I've always kind of written, and I think, when people ask me, well, how do you write? First of all, get something that you're passionate about. Second of all, know how you write a book, one page at a time. Sometimes one paragraph at a time, sometimes one sentence at a time. But you know what? Just try and keep coming back to it. I also used to use my phone, talk into your phone. You got ideas, talk into your phone. Those things come in, become articles, they become classes, they become, you probably do it too. They become part of your book,
Oh, brother, man. John Maxwell calls them shower thoughts. I keep a little notebook that I write everything in because everybody's had the shower thought. And by the time you get out of the shower and towel off and find something to write it down, you forgot it, and it's $1 million idea, but you forgot it. Yeah. So talking into your phone is you're way more tech savvy than me. See?
No, I'm not. I can't believe that you haven't thought of that.
Yeah. I'm just not good with finding it again. If I record it, I could never find it again. That's my own fault. But you said your brother was in a band. Older brother, younger brother?
My younger brother, he was in a band. He's still in a band, and they're still playing.
The reason I ask is I know you love music. You love music, and so I didn't know if that was from him or. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we grew up with it together. It was always there. But my brother's band, they play, maybe a dozen times a year. They bring all the North Bergen people together.
That's awesome.
It's special. Listen, I'm sure you grew up in a place that was special. To me, it's just still special.
That's awesome.
As is the fire department.
Thank you, Jeremy. Great question. Great answer.
Absolutely.
To the Max 31 said, when faced with victims at a window, do you throw the ladder or put the fire out? It's the chicken or the egg question of the fire service.
Try to do both at the same time if you got enough people. If you got one engine on a scene, somebody at a window, and the fire's near them, you may have to make that decision, make that rescue with the engine and a ground ladder. If you have an engine and a ladder on a scene and the engine is going to raise a ladder, well, that's tunnel vision. They should be stretching a line. They used to always run these tests in New Jersey, and sometimes the engine would be on scene, sometimes the engine and the ladder, sometimes the ladder's hung up on the corner. It's all based on John Norman's book. John Norman's book is it depends on circumstances. If you got a ladder on a scene, the ladder makes the rescue, the engine stretches the line. If you only got one company on the scene, and again, it depends how close the victim is to the fire. It depends on if you can get the ladder there. There's a lot of variables there, and it's a decision that has to be made. But remember, and this is where things could get a little, engine companies stretch hose, ladder companies make rescue when they're both on scene at the same time. But that's not to say that engine companies stretching hose shouldn't make rescues either. But I'm backed in the corner here with that question.
No, absolutely. And it's not.
No, I know. Yeah. That question is on every friggin' exam. The way John Norman explained it was, if you're the first company on the scene and you're an engine company and there's somebody at a window with heavy smoke pouring out, make the rescue. If you got enough people to make the rescue and stretch a line, that's fine. But if you don't, neither of them are going to get accomplished.
Right. No, and I love the ability to have a play already called just speeds up operations and makes everything more effective. Yeah. So Jeremy Humphrey said, great answer, max points already. So there you go. You've already getting max points. A preemptive max points. We got lots of questions coming at you from the audience. So we'll keep them rolling if you're okay with it.
Yeah, I'm good with them, man. I'm good with them.
Chief, this comes from Matt Berkins, Matty B. I'm assuming Matty B. So let me know if it's a different Matt Berkins. Chief, how would you approach teaching that kind of command presence and decision-making under stress when the student hasn't faced a truly chaotic scene yet? How do you kind of get that across? Yeah, that's no easy questions tonight for you, Chief.
That's a great question. Yeah, these guys, man, I gotta put my thinking hat on. Well, can you read that question again?
How do you approach teaching your kind of command presence and decision making under stress when the student hasn't faced a truly chaotic scene yet?
Listen, there were times when I didn't either. You know, you have to keep your head. You have to maintain. And this is hard to do. You got to maintain your cool when everybody's not maintaining their cool. You know, a lot of it for me was, and you know, before North Hudson Regional, I didn't have a lot of experience. My first fire as a incident commander, I lost a $9 million restaurant on the waterfront. You know, so I didn't start off too well. So I said, I better pump my game up. I think it has to do with education. You got to read, especially if you're a chief that doesn't get a lot of fires. You got to read some of the things that have gone on. 30 fires you should know. Great book, right? Great book by Lieb and Goldfeder. Everybody should have that book. You know, yes. I think a lot of it has to do with that. You have to understand that ego and emotion can never exist with leadership and rank, especially emotion on the fireground. And that's hard to do too. When things are going down, it's difficult. It's a very difficult question. The best I could say is educate yourself. Make sure you're looking at lessons learned. Always try and file your experiences, because you're not going to see everything anyway. But remember, life safety, incident stabilization, property conservation. As you're doing that, and don't forget the Colmo people. Yeah, listen, you want to be incident commander, you want to be one, you're on the island. If that's what you want to do, that's what you're going to do, and the only way to get better on the island is to stay on the island. The more you get, it's a hard question because some people just
basically asking. It's basically asking you, how do you get experience when you don't have experience? That's what it's asking you.
Yeah, reading, going to FDIC, going to classes, listening to Coley Moore talk. Yeah, all those things, because a lot of people don't. And I did a lot of learning and a lot of lessons learned and a lot of education. I did a lot of that. And once we got to North Hudson Regional, I was on the job 14 years and we did that. The fires started to come and you learn. You know what the thing is? You learn fast. Pay attention. You learn fast.
And you were groomed on the gridiron.
Yeah.
You were set up.
Yeah. Sometimes while it's happening, you're learning.
No doubt about it. And the mentors. The other part of it is like Ed Flood. One of your mentors, man. Mentors are they have such an impact on you, and you don't even realize it till sometime later, and you look back, and it's powerful.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I actually didn't even think about. Oh, that's crazy. I didn't think about that. Yeah, somebody that you sort of grab onto that just influences your career.
And hopefully it's the right person, because there's been people, I'm sure, my experiences, I've always been lucky enough to latch on to people worth latching onto. And maybe it's not an accident. I've never thought about it. So
yeah, me too. You know what? One of the things I always looked at was nobody wakes up in the morning and says, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to be a mentor, or I want to grow up and be a mentor. Nobody does that. Mentors are chosen by the people being mentored. Most times a department may put a mentor in place.
Right,
and we used to do that, but we never really called it that. I think the thing about a mentor is do things the right way all the time. Always do what's right for the job. And somebody watching you, because the higher up you go, they're always watching you. Somebody watching will say, I want to be like that guy. That guy always does the right thing. That's how you become a mentor. You don't become a mentor like it's not an internal thing. It's an external thing.
Yeah, no.
And that was one of the things that Flood used to say. He goes, it's all about always doing the right thing for the job. And I think if you do that, people recognize that, and then they recognize you as a mentor. I think mentors thrown around a little too much, to be quite honest with you. And I have my own sort of view of it, but yeah, you want to be somebody's mentor, always do what's right for the job. You want to find a mentor, find somebody that always does something right for the job.
Boom. That's beautiful, Chief. Beautiful. Great question. And hey, you're crushing them. these hard and fast, and they're
Yeah,
curving.
they
and
are, man. They are. Shit.
Stephen Kaiser, getting more back into the tactics. He says, do you have a preferred system / order for your external size up? And do you utilize a tick at all?
Okay. Do I have an order for my external size up? I would get on a scene. What the hell is going on here? Where's the fire? Where's it going? Are there any victims? I actually have, there's a whole list in the book of strategic decision-making cues, and
Okay.
one of the things, and I'm going to answer this in two parts then. One of the things I always looked at strategic-wise is, can I get a primary done? How much of a primary can I get done? If I can get a full primary done, we're offensive all the way. But as my primary ability begins to diminish, my ability to stay in a building starts to diminish, and this is when it starts to do this or this, and it's out of whack, this is when things get really dangerous. I have to, as an incident commander, you have to stay on top of that shit. Our primary, where it's starting, things are starting to get kind of weird in here. Well, now we have to start thinking about, maybe adjusting our strategy, something like that, So from the exterior of the building, I try to balance the reports. I try to always watch the building. I am not a command guy. I'm not a command in the car guy. I'm out in the street. I got two-sided view of the building. That's how I like it. Vince Lombardi never coached the game from the locker room. And safe space command posts are for sissies. And
there you go.
You want me to keep going here? Frank Ricci said, command from afar is far from being in command. So I got take that, Castros.
I was like, we got an East Coast, West Coast feud.
Absolutely,
on the scrap.
Absolutely, it's a real scrap. But I think that's a really important part. If you're outside and you can sink your teeth into it, the in service and ready status, you get companies like all that's going on. You got size up is about all your senses. All your senses can't be used if you're in the car. That's just my feeling, And what was the last part of the question?
Oh, good, great. Do you use I can't talk. Do you utilize a tick at all?
I never did, but I took a class by a guy named Mike Daly from New Jersey. Great class on tick operations. And I actually put it in. It's part of my class now. I have a couple of really cool pictures, and if I could again, I would use it at the command post. I would look, you look at the temperature. I could see a fire spreading in the cockloft if it's likely to be balloon frame. I never realized, and of course I'm off the job 10 years. You think about a lot when you're off the job that can make the job better, But yeah, if I could today, if I was there today, I would have a tick. Absolutely. Great question.
Love it. Thank you, Steve. And he came from Australia, from down under.
Wow.
To ask that question. He was from the future. Technically, he's from the future. He's from tomorrow. Jason, care of you. What is the first resource you point others to trying to improve their command skill set? He has his book called Fireground Strategies.
Yeah, the first resource, Fireground Strategies. Full contact leadership. No, there was a great book that I read, and it's the father of full contact leadership. If you can get this book, Winning the Fire Service Leadership Game by Hugh Caulfield. He was a special projects manager in New York City, and he wrote the best leadership book I have ever read by far. By
Winning.
Hold it up real quick. Winning the Fire Service Leadership Game. It's out of print, but if you can get your hands on this book, it is that. Maybe we can rally fire engineering to, do a limited pressing of this book, because this book is the book.
Caulfield? Is it like I can't see the author?
Caulfield.
Caulfield. Caulfield. Okay, got it.
Yeah,
I wanted everybody to hear it. So
yeah, he was a special projects manager in New York City, and he talked about how the job's a game, everybody plays their game, and if you're playing a game but the people above you are not playing a game, you always get your game called. But you have to be careful about playing games below you, because people can be hurt, and not just literally, but figuratively. And he also talked about, and again, this goes back right to that book. He talked about resources, consistency. A consistent officer is a good officer. Flood used to say firm, fair, and friendly. That's your job as an officer. You always have to be fair. You always can be a little firmer. You don't have to be so friendly, but that's where you start: firm, fair, and friendly, and that makes for a consistent officer. I think that's important. Yeah, but that book, man, I'll tell you what. But I read Norman a million times for my promotionals. I read Collapse of Burning Buildings. Great book for new company officers is Responding to Routine Emergencies by Frank Montagna. He was an FDNY guy. And I got on a job. I didn't know the difference between a wiffle ball bat and a screwdriver. This book is about, kind of squad runs, water leaks, electrical problems, gas leaks, CO responses, boiler problems. This is what this book talks about. And, for me, there's a fire, put water on it. There's a boiler. I don't know what the hell's going on.
Right.
No, so yeah, really, really good book. But I've been Brunacini's first book, all the Branigans. Just listen. You know what? There's not one resource out there for your command presence. You need to have more resources out there.
It's full contact investment. Full contact.
It is a full. Yeah, listen. You heard of 10,000 hours, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? 10,000 hours is a minimum. That's the minimum standard for being, the man on a job. The command presence.
Great question, Jason. Thanks for sending it. Keep it moving on. Right? We just talked about this a little bit, but Dana Larkin's coming back and asking you, is there a book or article you read that made a difference in your career? And would it have changed anything if you'd have read it earlier?
Wow. Man. Dana gets the tough question of the day. Was there a book if I had read it earlier? I don't know. I got to look at some of my books off to the side here and see what's over here, because I got a whole bunch of them, I think it wasn't a book. There was a class I did called Command and Control of Major Fires and Emergencies, and it was an NFPA class, but it was taught by Jimmy Smith from Philadelphia. And he taught me about decentralization of the fireground, which, quite honestly, if you can solidly decentralize your fireground, you got command presence, And it was about creating the monster and feed the monster. The monster is any place you can't completely control, but needs to be addressed. Ooh. Feed the monster is feed it stuff. Chiefs, firefighters, companies and stuff. That to me, sort of turn the bulb on,
I love it. Great answer.
I try to get something out of every book I read. So there's all little things. There's not one book that I've said, I've done safety and survival. I've done building collapse. I wish I had read that, before I read it, because I didn't really know as much about building construction.
Sure.
And, and the idea is try and read as much as you can.
I love it. I love that answer. On the next question actually written in here, since you brought up Dunn, is from Fully Involved with 3 exclamation points. He says, Chief, what is your favorite book from Uncle Vinny and why?
Collapse of Burning Buildings. It was his first, and all the other ones are Collapse of Burning Building is like on the top of the mountain, and all the other ones are holding it up,
Gotcha.
That book, that's the game. You want to be an incident commander. You don't know how a building's going to fall apart. Your building instruction. Don't be an incident commander. And he's a very. I call him Uncle Vinny. I used to work at New Jersey City University. I still do. And Kevin Malley, who was my boss there, he was very good friends with Uncle Vinny, and we used Uncle Vinny's books, and he would come in and he would teach the classes sometimes, and then we'd go out for dinner and stuff. He said to me, why would you put your name on somebody else's book? My stepfather was his driver.
Oh, wow.
In FDNY. And do you know Charlie Lynn is, or Charlie Zeke, the New Jersey Deputy Battalion Chiefs Association? So it's a pretty big organization. It's got a lot of traction, and Vinny Dunn writes for it. It's a Facebook page, and Vinny Dunn writes for it every single day.
Oh wow!
And Charlie Lynn had a party at his house, and Vinny came. It was Vinny's birthday, and my stepfather came with me, and they hadn't seen each other in like 30 years. It was really, really cool.
Oh, I bet. I
Really.
bet.
But and I call him Uncle Vinny, and I say it with absolute respect for the guy, because I love him to death.
No
We
doubt
swap
about it.
one.
There you go. Where am I at? Timothy Harrison says, Chief, what's a subject or two that doesn't get near the time it deserves in rookie schools that we should focus more on?
2 subjects: laddering and laddering.
Okay.
Actually, no. It's actually first is building construction.
Okay.
You look at Fire 1, and there's 900 hours of hazmat and all kinds of crap you never really do, although it can get you killed. There's 3 hours of building construction. What are we doing here? And it's. I think, actually, to be honest, I think it's 24 hours of hazmat that we do in Fire 1 in New Jersey. 3 hours of building construction. That's wrong. And the other end of it is laddering. The worst skill in the fire service is laddering, and it's only because people are afraid of ladders. They don't want to ladder every day. They don't want to. They just don't want to do it. And North Hudson, we raise ladders every day. Bergen County Fire Academy, Monmouth County Fire Academy. We try to do as much ladders as we possibly could. So those 2 things right there: building construction in the book part, and actually building construction is not a book part. Building construction is get out on the street, get some pre-fire street intelligence, and
I love it.
Yeah, and laddering, man, laddering.
No, absolutely. Okay, Sam's on that. I'm going to get back to your book and get back to Fireground Strategies, 4th edition. Talk to me about that cover, because it's a unique cover, brother. There it is.
There it is. That's Hudson Yards in the background. You used to be able to see the Empire State Building from that block, and because we're directly across the river from New York City. So what you're looking at the end of that street drops off to the cliffs, down to the waterfront, and then the Hudson River. A guy that was one of my real good captain of mine. I got him when he was promoted to captain, and he came into my firehouse, and he moved from there to a squad company. He's a deputy now. I sort of enlisted him and a couple of guys, and I said, look, I want to do this cover. And he went out and he scouted the whole place. He goes, all right, I got the best place. I got the best place. We're going to have to stand up high. And, so that's the guy in the front, is a guy named Al Prats. You're going to hear his name again.
Nice.
And the guys behind him, there's one guy I don't know, so I can't say, Frankie Baker and Ferd Astrolaga. They were on the job when I was on the job. The other guy, I think it's Kenny McGuire. I'm not 100% sure, but it was a really cool cover to do, and I didn't think they were going to let me use it, but they did. Thank them for, I guess after 4 editions you could do something like that. But
right,
I thank Diane and David and everybody at Fire Engineering Books for doing that. They said that was the coolest cover they ever put together. Fire Engineering Books said that. They said
that's a pretty healthy.
We are so excited about that cover. Yeah, there's lots of books out, man. So the cover's worth it alone. You turn the book backward, read it backwards, and you get the messages.
Okay.
Nobody understands that. That's a Beatle reference.
Okay. You're talking about spinning the record.
Yeah, play the record backwards.
Okay. No, I was not tracking until you said that. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. Beautiful. I'm a little slow sometimes.
That's all right. I'm not the best communicator sometimes.
Emilio Reyes coming at you said, Chief, what's one failure or mistake that you have had that you were willing to talk about that others could avoid? Which you've never been shy about that.
Listen, I made a zillion mistakes from leaning too far across the cornice to almost sitting on a on a soil pipe that was about to burst out fire, to almost falling in a vent hole, to almost falling off a fire escape. Like, you name it, I did stupid things, but I think one of the mistakes that I made was I it was probably the biggest mistake I ever made. It had nothing to do with the Fireground. I made a remark in front of the chief of department, to the chief of department, with some of my subordinate chiefs around, and I shouldn't have made that remark. I ran my mouth. At the time, we were browning out companies, and morale is just a bunch of feelings, so it don't really matter. But something else was going on. I don't remember what it was, and I turned to the chief and I said, "Chief, don't you ever stick up for us?" And he was a very good friend, man, and I heard him, and to this day I'm apologizing. And the director called me, and Ed Flood called me, and they said, "You know what, man, you never should have said that." They said you could have said it in private, and he would have taken it, but you said it in the wrong environment, and he was right. And to this day I regret that. I totally regret that. And he brought me in the next day. I called him at home. It was a Friday, and I called him at home and said, "Chief, I'm really sorry. I stepped way out of line here." And he goes, "We'll talk Monday or Tuesday." I think I was coming in on Tuesday, whatever it was, next door. Next door, I come in, and he said to me, he goes, "I could pull you off the line for insubordination. I could even start he really just told me how he could have really just tore me apart. But he didn't. He said, "I want you to understand this is a teaching and a learning moment. And one day you may be in this position, and you'll have somebody say that to you, he goes, that, and you'll know how I felt, he like stabbed me in the heart even a little more. But quite honestly, that was the biggest mistake I ever made. Know your place, know when to open your mouth, and when to be smart and be a gentleman. If that's not what he was looking for as far as mistakes, then
it was a
if
great
you want to
honest,
see all the mistakes I made.
great honest answer, and a great lesson to file away, and hopefully someone else fully involved wants to know what building type is the most challenging and why. There you go. It's a nice broad one. You can go any direction you want with that.
Yeah. Well, listen, all of them are challenging in their own ways. I could go right through and read the book in the building instruction chapter, but quite honestly, I do a class, and it is part of the book, When Buildings Change the Rules of the Game, and I look at a bunch of different buildings that lightweight construction, vacant structures, large footprint structures, renovated, repurposed, structural carcass. Like all these buildings are major challenges that because of either how they're built or their occupancy or whatever it happens to be, we can't fight fires in the same way we fight the fire in a 2-story frame. Now, that having been said, we get a lot of people hurt and killed in Maydays in a 2-story frame as well. So there were buildings in North Hudson that, and I could name them that I had nightmares about, name off the top of my head, man. I said, man, I hope I don't get a fire in that place, man. So a couple of them I did. Time, sort of causes that sort of like to sort of mandate, manifest itself,
Sure. Love it.
Yeah.
Good. Hey,
I hope I answered.
No, absolutely. And different perspectives. I'm reading more tons of questions coming in, so I'm trying to sort through them all. And Jeremy's great. I got it. What advice? I like this one. This is nice and broad for you, especially right in your wheelhouse for all that you've done. McGinn wants to know, Andrew McGinn coming out, he says, what advice would you give to a new instructor?
A new instructor, make sure you know what you're teaching. Don't ever wing it. Make sure that you prepare. Understand that you are, while you are being looked on as the expert, don't condescend anybody. Be very careful about that. And again, if you don't know something, make sure these are just nuggets that you hear in the teaching books, But I think the most important thing is you got to know what you're talking about, and sometimes again you could have a mentor as an instructor, or I think that's really, really important. And if you don't know, see if somebody else could teach it and you could be taught. Ask for a trainer. That doesn't mean you can't teach it, but ask for a trainer. Ask if somebody else could teach it while you watch. I think that's kind of important.
No, it's beautiful, beautiful answers, and that's why I love them. I like those open-ended questions. You can go whatever direction you want to throw at them. Sometimes they're better. I like Fully Involved wants to know. He likes these mistakes ones. He says, Chief, what was one fire if you could have a redo, and you'd want to do over? What's the one fire you would want to do over on?
There are a couple. Well, the very first fire, the Chart House fire, I was completely unprepared. It was my very first fire. I didn't decentralize properly. I didn't, you know what? I didn't have control. I didn't feel comfortable. And I vowed, I said to myself, that will never happen again. As I got, and luckily for me, when we regionalized, because when the Chart House fire that was when I was at Weehawken, had 10 guys on response. When we regionalized to North Hudson, we were much busier. I saw a lot more fire. I started to sort of figure all that out. And with some of the things I've talked about, sort of in this program, but I think the Chart House, it was like a $9 million loss. The other ones, little mistakes here, little mistakes there, maybe not mine, maybe the company's, whatever it happens to be. We were able to overcome that. One of the beautiful things about the regional fire department when we first started, we were staffed with the best of the best. All the best, because we do for civil service. So, number 1, 2, and 3 in each town were the chiefs, the best captains and, a lot of experience, and I had, especially in the first 10 years at a regional, I probably worked with some of the best, toughest, strongest, and just the best firefighters that, and officers I ever worked with, and we overcame a lot of things, but that Chart House always kind of.
Always. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't forget a $9 million loss.
No, especially your first one in command, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a
first multiple anyway.
Right. First, get serious. Rob Ramirez chimed in and said, late to the show, one of the most influential and down-to-earth leaders in the fire service. Read his book cover to cover in 2005. One of the real OGs, great guest. So I wanted to read that to you because that's pretty good compliment.
Thanks, brother. Thank you so much.
So, Fireground Strategies, 4th edition. Give the readers, the elevator pitch from the author here as we wrap up the question and answer time and move on to some of the other things to talk about. But I wanted to do any. Is there any? I'm basically just giving you open forum to say what you love most about 4th edition of the book.
I think
we've hit a lot of it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, man. I think it's very up to date. I think it's a culmination of not only my years in the fire service with North Hudson, but also all the things that I've learned from being a director at a fire academy. And again, the thing about the fire academy, it sort of pushed me into continuing to be a student of the job. And I learned a lot. I was continuously talking into my phone, but I also learned that, there are things in there on lithium ion. There are things in there on active shooter, civil unrest, things that we don't go to all the time, high risk, low frequency, and I didn't make any of that stuff up. Basically, I sort of paraphrased and I put it in the book. I paraphrased a lot of the SOPs from North Hudson, the lithium ion thing. I did a lot of research on that. But I think they're all sort of from the command point of view and the organizational point of view. It's not necessarily from the company officer point of view. It's more from that. There's a lot of new building construction in there, and I think it's laid out well. I'd be quite honest. If I had to do it again, I would have cut some out because I'm reading it now just to make sure everything's cool. And I'm like, man, what? This fucking book is so goddamn long. I'm like, shit.
It's extensive.
It's extensive. It is. It's used in a lot of places, and they wanted to be extensive.
Sure.
So it is. That's one of the things I would do. But I I think it's a very solid book. I think it's going to be adopted by universities and departments for testing as it has over the last 20 years. And it's way up to date on a lot of things that no other book is really covering. So, listen, my thing is this: I hope you don't think it sucks.
That's a great goal to aim for, my brother. A great goal to aim for. Now, we've talked a lot about books already today, but I always ask, and you've already brought up quite a few, including your favorite leadership book, but book or books that you think firefighters should read?
Books or what?
Any books that you think a firefighter should read. Does not have to be a firefighting book, but any book that you think firefighters should read.
Well, certainly Report from Engine Company 82.
Absolutely.
I mean, that was, that started me. I think I read it when I was 11.
Wow.
Yeah. I lived up the block from a firehouse and in
Nice.
Union City. And I used to watch the rigs going in and out of the firehouse all the time. I saw that first snorkel, so that just kind of fed my fire,
Sure.
I like to read the fire service books, but I'm more of like, I like to read about history. I like to read about the Beatles and things like that. It might not be what other people like to read. There's an author named John Shara who has written a bunch of historical fiction books, which means it's historically accurate, but the conversations in there just are there to just sort of move the book along, And he did a book called Gods and Generals, and the one about the Civil War. Oh my God, Killer Angels. Killer Angels. It's about Gettysburg, and it's surrounded by The Last Full Measure and Gods and Generals. It's a trilogy, but he's done a ton of books, 5 on World War II, all that. But Killer Angels is about Gettysburg. And it's kind of interesting at Gettysburg. There were a lot of this, and all this, there's lots. You read the strategies, the war strategies. Some really, really cool stuff where these guys were brilliant in war strategy.
Wow.
So I like reading that sort of stuff. Vietnam War.
Shara, Shara,
2 A's.
Okay. 2
Yeah.
A's. Okay.
2 A's. Yeah, really good stuff. I mean, there's probably books that are more. People say, well, that's historical fiction, but to me, it was really, really good.
No, it resonated with you, and you also have to write your novel so that we can enjoy that and hear the story of these boys from Jersey.
Glorious results of a misspent youth.
There you go. So now we do the 5 questions for firefighters. This is version 4.0. These are brand new questions that you have not seen before, because last time was exactly 100 episodes ago. So these are new. And the answers are completely your opinion. There's no right or wrong. And the points are arbitrary, passed out by me with the help of the studio audience, or the live internet audience, I should say. So are you ready for the 5 questions? Version 4.0.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Here we go. Number 1, you are the probie once more, and you have to cook the meal at the firehouse. What is your go-to meal?
Well, it was either 5-alarm chili, which I learned in the firehouse.
Okay.
And I learned how to cook in the firehouse. Or, like every Italian, that's number 2 to chili. That's a few times a year. Every Italian, pasta, meatball, sausage, you'd start on Sunday. It's the first thing they do. Everybody's cooking. At lunchtime, you have the meatball sandwich, the sausage sandwich, and then you have the pasta and the rest of the meat. And then that's Sunday in a firehouse. So, and that's what I would cook. Yeah. Yeah. There's zuppa de pash, zuppa de clams, that kind of stuff. But the straight up Sunday gravy, man. Sunday
Straight
sauce.
up
Sorry.
Sunday sauce. There you go. I love it, man. I realized I haven't eaten much today, so now I'm hungry because that sounds delicious. And it said max points is what he says. Max points number 1 right out the gate for the Sunday gravy. Number 2, it's Jobtown. I'm excited about this question because I know how much you love music, but it's Jobtown. It's time. You're en route and responding. You got to think of the scene from Backdraft where he slaps that tape into that cassette deck. What song are you playing while en route?
All right, so if I had to choose a song, it's Black Sabbath.
Black Sabbath, Black Sabbath.
Right. So playing football in high school, that was the song we played before we went out on the field. However, before that, and I would probably play Patton's War Speech.
Oh,
That's what we played in the locker room. That could be my first choice. You know, if you're taking a song, that's not a song, but you know, no
right. No,
basketball,
no one. I don't think anyone's
no
ever done a speech before.
buying
And are you
for a
talking? Are
country.
you talking about George C. Scott's like
Yes,
rendition in front of the flag?
yes, the
Okay,
one on the album. He
right
won
on.
that war by making the other poor dumb bastard die for his country. We played that before we went out on the field
Nice.
in Giant Stadium,
And then run Sabbath.
and then Sabbath comes on. Yeah,
Is that our first? Is that our first Sabbath, Sam? I think it is. I don't know if there's been War Pigs or anything else that's come up before.
yeah. There's a lot of songs out
Oh,
there.
there's I was gonna say. Okay. Love it. Hey, max points for number 2. Great, and including George C. Scott's or Patton, I should say. Yeah, absolutely. Number 3. Whose boots, past, present, or future, would you like to spend 24 hours in?
Whose boots, past, present, future? That's an interesting one. I'd venture to say John Lennon, but I'm thinking George Washington, man.
Oh wow, going really historical.
Yeah, I think George Washington. You know, right in the middle of the whole shebang, man. You know, and it's just off the top of my head. You know,
Sure.
Abraham Lincoln too. You know, but I'd like to be inside John Lennon's head for one day.
I love it. Number 4, you are retired. You are sitting on the beach enjoying a Mai Tai. What do you want to hear through the grapevine that the people you used to work with, how do you want to hear that they describe you to the new hires?
I hope they're kind. I hope they say I was fair and consistent. I heard something one time through my brother. He was talking to somebody that worked on my shift, and he said, you know, when Avillo was on a job, we felt safe. When he was commanding a fire, we felt safe, you know. And then I had another chief one time say at the university, I talked to somebody from North Hudson, and they said, you know, how do I describe Avillo? Well, if there were 4 doors and each door represented a platoon, the 3 doors would be empty and the 4th one would be filled with the entire department. That would be Avillo's door. Those things I thought were really, really cool. You know?
No, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. You know, and one other real quick story. I was getting ready to retire, and we had a really challenging fire on my shift in Union City. Exposures all over the place, and they made a great stop. And this guy Steve Cador was the acting deputy. He was the IC, and one of the captains, Billy Laban, comes out of the building and he's looking around, and Cador says to him, "Billy, what's the matter?" He goes, "Where's Avillo?" "What do you mean, where's Avillo? Where's Avillo? Avillo's not here. He's on vacation." He goes, "You ran this fire?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Wow, you did a really good job, man. I thought that was Avillo running this fire." You know, so Steve Cador said to me, "Boy, do you cast a long shadow."
That's all. That is an awesome
Yeah, those are
dude.
things that will stay with me, you know.
Oh, dude, with pride.
Good. Yeah.
Absolutely, man.
It
I love that.
Cool things to say, you know.
Great, Max. Easy max points on number 4. Number 5, it's the question that never changes. There is heavy fire, and there's also searchable space. Would you rather be assigned to the nozzle or first in on VES?
You got to ask me that.
I always ask. I never know if things change.
Right. Okay, so to me, the engine companies are junior leagues. I'm a ladder guy through and through. I want to be the guy going through that window. That's what I want to be. And this is no knock on the engine companies, but you know what? Junior leagues.
I absolutely love the gauntlets that have been thrown down tonight between command and then engine versus truck. Absolutely love it. And no, absolutely. So there you go. Max points on number 5. And there is your 5 questions for firefighters from Anthony Avillo. Brother, that officially makes 297 scraps in the books. Thank you, first of all, for sharing your evening with us. If someone wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do so?
They can. I'm gonna be found on Facebook and message. I have a website, chiefavillo.com, and my email. My email is right on my website. So you want to contact me with anything, questions, answers, abuse. I don't care.
Brother, you absolutely crushed it tonight. Thank you so much. But
Thank you,
a brand new thing we are doing, we're asking each scrap guest to give a challenge to the audience that is here at the end, and it's a challenge that they need to complete before the next scrap next week. So what is your challenge to the scrappers?
You know what? I wrote this down and I don't remember where I put it.
There's your challenge. Just try to remember your
challenge is trying to remember. Challenge to the readers. Go out. Find a building that you feel is challenging. It doesn't have to be a target hazard. Bring it back to your company. Take pictures of it. Bring it back to your company and talk about it and bring them there. I'm sure other people have done that. That's I don't want to say that's lame, but that's pre-fire street intelligence. Pre-fire street intelligence is buildings that are weird and maybe not everybody else knows it. So I think you need to do that. What building would you not like to fight a fire in it? And it shouldn't be a target hazard.
Right on. No, I love it. And I love the fact that the consistency in your message, because building construction is so important, and the consistency of your message is go out and find that building. So I love the challenge. Now, the last question I ask is someone that you think should be on the scrap. I'm always looking for new blood. Or somebody that I don't know that's not in my network, because I have a tendency to want to talk to the same people over and over. So I'm always looking for a way to expand. So who should I have on? And they may have already been on. It may have been a while, but because I know you can't know all 250 guests,
No, definitely not. Well, my grandbrother Jim Duffy is always a wealth of knowledge and a really good talking guy. Some of the younger people, Sean Duffy, Basil, Abraham, some of the guys that, they're passing out the Kool-Aid, man, and I like what a lot of them are doing. I hope they continue to do it, wisely. Did you have those guys?
I've had Duffy on, and Basil came on with his Mayday just recently, not too long ago. I say recently, now it's like 4 months ago, because time flies. Time does not slow down. So no, Duffy, I need to reach out to Duffy. I do.
Yeah, that's Jim Duffy. Have you had
for bringing him? Say it again. Oh yeah, Frank. Oh yeah, Frank is one of my favorite. Yeah, he's absolutely
He's evil and diabolical.
Oh, he's a genius.
Yes, he's very evil.
So yeah, I want to. Oh well, okay. We'll get a whole story on that. Okay, housekeeping. Everybody, go to patreon.com/thevigilantes. The Discord is up and running. It is so active. It's very active. If you're looking for a place to connect with like-minded souls, go become a vigilante. One of the cool parts of being a vigilante is we do the after party, and Anthony is invited to the after party where we will come in and roast him. We always threaten a roast, and it's the mildest thing ever. But something else. Sam will be posting the link for the after party, so go become one. Coming up on the show next week from Australia, it is Gerard Mann. He's going to be coming in. I got to talk to him at FDIC face-to-face for just a little bit. It was an awesome conversation. I'm looking forward to talking to him. It's going to be a fun conversation, followed by the one and only Ray McCormick. So that's the next 2 weeks. So it's already, you don't want to miss what we got going on. And then, of course, episode 300 is just around the corner. We have something special planned for episode 300. If you're a vigilante, you already know kind of what's going on. So that's it. I'll quit rambling. Let's get to the after party. Thank you once again, Anthony Avillo,
thank you, brother.
Thank
you, everybody.
For writing 4 editions of the book it has had a huge impact on the fire service and is going to continue to do so. So thank you for that. And thank you for sharing your evening with us.
Thanks, brother.
Audience, my last bit. Thank you as always for coming, showing up, asking unbelievably good questions. You threw some curveballs at tonight. It was great.
Thank you for tuning in and keep drinking the Kool-Aid, man.
I love it. Remember, mutts don't scrap. I hope the tones stay silent unless it is burning. Everybody, stay safe out there.